Hi, my name is Travis Lindsay. I'm here for the Center for Entrepreneurship at Cal State Fullerton. And with me today is Dr. Cynthia West. She is the director of the Leatherby Center for Entrepreneurship and Business Ethics. Ethics is something that I think should be covered in every course in business. I mean, I know I did that a little bit anyways when I was a professor over at Cal State Fullerton. And anyways, today we're going to talk about our upcoming event, SoCal Celebrates Entrepreneurship. That'll be early next year, March 9th, 2024. But before we get into that, Cynthia, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Travis. Yes, I'm Cynthia West, and I'm currently the director of the Leatherby Center for Entrepreneurship and Business Ethics here at Chapman University. But I'm also clinical associate professor of entrepreneurship here at Chapman. And so I have two distinct roles. And before I came to Chapman, I actually was a part of 4 different tech startups. So I always like to tell students that I actually left my corporate cushy job before it was kind of a hip and cool thing to do, and went to my first startup, in which we got bought out and acquired by R.R. Donnelley and Sons in about 14 months. And then the second one we took public inside about 3 years. The third one, interestingly, backed by Ernst & Young, so it had very good backing. It actually went bankrupt. And the last one, I just walked away to do this role as kind of my give back career, if you will.
Oh my God, you're super successful in the startup space because I mean, okay, so part of my background is investing in startups and teaching and all that other stuff. But I mean, the failure rate's so high. So you were what was it, 2 for 3, 2 for 4?
Yeah, I would say 2 for 4. The fourth one is still an ongoing concern. I have stock options in that, so yeah, we'll see. Cross fingers.
Well,
Yeah, but
that's
oddly, the 2 successful ones were actually with the same CEO. So we had the same team that we took from one startup to the next. So
yeah, that's huge. That's something that I talk about with everybody who's thinking about entrepreneurship, and that's why we're here today. SoCal Celebrates Entrepreneurship. That's something that I know is really important for us at Cal State Fullerton, and I know it's important for you over there as well. So taking a little bit of a step back, what do you see as this state of entrepreneurship in Southern California, and maybe how that connects with the world as well?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I would say, as the global economy seems to be heading toward a gig economy and a side hustle economy. And I think there is research showing about 40% of young people have some kind of side hustle. So I feel like not just in Southern California, but really all over the world, there's a need to understand, at least the framework of entrepreneurship. I think there is, people say, well, you really can't teach entrepreneurship, but there are certain frameworks and methodologies we can teach students so that they can have a more successful business, and they don't have to go through some of the painful trial and error, trial and mistake kinds of efforts that entrepreneurs sometimes go through. So we definitely think we have a curriculum here at Chapman to support that, but definitely it feels like everybody's going to need to know how to market themselves, sell themselves, brand themselves, how to invoice, collect on invoices. I mean, there are certain fundamentals I think we can encourage students to learn, and then support them with, all of their innovative ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that is a recurring theme that I hear from a lot of different people, a lot of smart, successful people, is that you really got to be a lifelong learner, right? So yes, you can learn how to be an entrepreneur. You're going to have to learn it somehow, right? So it's better to do it as a student over at Chapman or Cal State Fullerton or wherever you are. So try to learn as much as you possibly can, and that'll help you. I mean, you're not going to learn everything, right? But you can learn quite a bit. So absolutely, take those classes seriously. Okay, so moving on from that, the SoCal Celebrates Entrepreneurship. Why do you think that event is important, and who do you think should really attend that event?
Sure. Well, I think what's so important and awesome about SoCal Celebrates Entrepreneurship is that it is all of the universities across the region and community colleges, and everybody's coming together and kind of getting unified around this concept of supporting, young people, the next generation of talent. And I think what's super important is we want to encourage this next generation of talent to have an entrepreneurial mindset. We know about 40% of them from the Deloitte research are interested in social impact entrepreneurship. So we want to support them in solving what are some of the world's most challenging problems that this generation is going to have to come up against. And I mean, I am a huge believer in, of course, not only lifelong learning, book reading, but also learning from others' experiences. So the event is going to show young people, and we're going to hear from a lot of people who've been there and done that. So people that have vast experience in starting up startups and businesses, a lot of them more than one, and some who have moved into funding and investing startups. So really, it's invaluable information that's maybe not in books, is hearing the stories and the situations that people were in and the challenges and how they overcame them. So these types of events, this event is going to be huge because we're pooling all of the resources we have across all the universities and all of our networks of people. And so students can come and learn not only from the speakers and the panelists, but also, from each other too.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going in a couple of directions here, but entrepreneurship is all about the ecosystem, right? So in Southern California, it's a strong ecosystem that's been building up for decades now, and it is connected on a global basis. But then also the other strand there is having people who've been there and done that, and that's kind of the blood that flows through that ecosystem. And now somebody who has gone through a number of different startups and has been extremely successful with them. Again, I mean, the failure rate is astronomical for some of these for pretty much all the startups, but you're batting at least 500 there. So what kind of role has having a mentor or an advisor played in your startup journey?
Well, oh my goodness. So the two startups that were the most successful that I was a part of, I was actually with the same CEO and the same mentor. I was a very young person, professional, and I learned a tremendous amount from, and his name was Nathan Schulhoff. Actually, he has about 5 patents on an MP3 player. So we were working on an MP3 player in 1994 before really it was out to market. So it wasn't until about 2004 that everybody had an iPod in their pocket, but my mentor had 5 patents on this idea of MP3 player. And I would say, like you said, the network is so important. When we got acquired in the first startup, he had a 6-month period where he couldn't chat with any of us. And then after 6 months to the day, he said, "Cynthia, we've got to go have lunch. I've got this other great idea." And so again, it's the network of, you're going to get your job through, students need to understand they're going to get their jobs and their opportunities through the people they know, by and large. And so I watched him as he went out and raised money, as he pitched the vision. He was a big idea guy, and he's still a big idea guy, but he surrounded himself with a team that could execute, and executing on the plan. Those were the bits and pieces that he was sort of frankly bored with. So I was always his sales and marketing person. Then he always had a legal person. And so there were a lot of learnings, he was always asking for money from friends, family, angels. He was always raising around, kind of watching that activity. And then again, surround yourself with people who complement your skill set, that fill the gaps that you have as a leader, and making sure that you know what your weaknesses are and that you fill those gaps. So those were just some of the things that I learned from my mentor. And interestingly, he's coming to campus in a few weeks to give a talk. So
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
we should get him to talk at SoCal Celebrates Entrepreneurship.
Yeah, well, there's an idea.
Yeah, no, and like there's tons of great advice just in what you were talking about. Having a good advisor, building a strong team around you. If you are going to be that entrepreneurial founder, you've got to have that big vision and have the ability to raise money. I mean, pretty much all the founders that I know, raising money is basically their full-time job.
Yeah.
And so
Constant.
100%. So if you're going to have that kind of a startup where you need to raise external funds, I mean, that's what you're going to be doing for most of the time. You're not going to be
Yeah.
at your workbench tinkering and doing R&D. That's just not what it's going to be like. I think we're wrapping the interview up now. I hope it's been okay. But before I let you go, do you have any advice that you generally give to students or anybody who's thinking about getting into entrepreneurship in general?
Well, I like one of the books that I'm having my students read is Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
I
And I
love that.
think,
I love it.
yeah, oh, good.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. Like, everybody thinks, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, but it is, you are like quite literally, you're going to give blood. I mean, you're 24/7. If you're not working on it, you're thinking about it. You might wake up in the middle of the night stressed out about something that you need to work on. So it's an all-consuming thing sometimes to be an entrepreneur or work at a startup or work on something innovative. And so you better really know why you're doing it and what, be passionate about it. And if you're not, then it's going to be a slog. So I think read that book. That's awesome. And then I think the other piece that kind of comes up for me, because it's so topical with the trial of SBF these days, is that people think the ethics piece is really easy. You take one of those tests about here's an ethical scenario and it's quite easy, usually black and white. But when you're in tech and you're doing something new and innovative, it's sometimes a slippery slope into convincing yourself that what you're doing is right. And I think that's the tricky part, is making sure you give yourself enough, like we call it white space, enough time to away from the venture to make sure that you're not losing your true north and your perspective and your point of view. Because, clearly there have been young people and examples who have, clearly gotten away from the business ethics part of the startup world. So I think it's, just be careful to spend enough time away from what you're doing to make sure you don't get in trouble that way.
Yeah, I mean the SBF story, Sam Bankman-Fried. I'm probably, most people who are watching this now, I've read a little bit about it. I know a little bit about it, but it's just one of those things where, I mean, it looks like, at least from my outsider perspective, that it's something that, making wrong decisions have a tendency, you follow one after the other, and eventually you find yourself on a Caribbean island, stealing money from one
It's a
company.
slippery slope,
Yeah,
is what it is.
yeah, and I mean and the thing is, I mean, with ethical dilemmas, I mean, you could do the wrong thing for the right reasons, and I mean, in a startup situation where everything is happening so quick and you have so many responsibilities on you, a lot that, if you haven't done it before, you would never even think about to consider making those wrong decisions. There's a lot of good reasons to make those wrong decisions to start off with, and if you're not aware of that before getting into it, you could really get yourself into some pretty hot water.
Exactly.
All right, Cynthia, thank you very much. If you're watching this, we hope that we see you on March 9th, 2024 at the SoCal Celebrates Entrepreneurship event. And I'll be at the Titan Student Union at Cal State Fullerton. And Cynthia, thank you very much. Pleasure talking with you.
You're welcome. See you there.